She opened the World Cup in front of 70,000 people. She sang. She danced. She made history. And then, weeks later, with no stage, no spotlight, no choreography, she came back. Alone. Sitting in the stands, watching a quarter-final match like any other fan in the building. So here's the question we can't stop asking. Why did Lisa come back? Was this just a pop star enjoying a game on her own time? Or is there something bigger connecting Lisa to this World Cup than anyone's actually saying out loud? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have all the pieces, even if the full picture is still being written. Part 1. The night she made history. Let's go back to where this story actually starts. June 12, 2026. SoFi Stadium, Los Angeles. The opening ceremony of the FIFA World Cup, just minutes before the United States would kick off Group D against Paraguay in front of a global audience. For most performers, an opening ceremony slot is already the peak of a career. But for Lisa, this was something else entirely. She wasn't just another name on a lineup that already included Katy Perry, Tyla, Future, and the operatic voice of Andrea Bocelli. She was there to do something that had never, technically, been done before. Lisa took the stage alongside Brazilian star Anitta and Nigerian artist Rema to perform Goals, the official anthem written for this tournament. Picture it. 3 artists, 3 continents, one song built specifically to represent a World Cup being hosted across 3 countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. There's something almost poetic in that setup. A tournament that spans borders, opened by a song that spans genres and languages. And then there's the historical footnote that turned this from a great performance into a genuinely significant one. A few years earlier, at the 2022 World Cup, BTS's Jungkook stepped onto a similar stage and became one of the first K-pop artists to perform at a World Cup opening ceremony. A moment that, at the time, felt like a signal flare. K-pop wasn't just topping charts anymore. It was showing up on the biggest sporting stage on Earth. Lisa's performance took that signal flare and turned it into something even rarer. She became the first member of a K-pop girl group to perform at a World Cup opening ceremony. Not a solo act stepping outside a group context, a member of arguably the most successful girl group of this generation, standing in the middle of a football stadium, representing an entire wing of the music industry that for decades, sports federations barely acknowledged. If you're not deep into K-pop, here's the quick version of why that matters. For years, K-pop girl groups broke streaming records, sold out stadiums, and dominated global fan culture. But World Cup ceremonies, Super Bowl halftimes, Olympic openings, those stages were still mostly reserved for a certain kind of global pop star. Lisa performing Goals wasn't just a nice moment for Blackpink fans. It was a crack in a very old ceiling. And it's worth sitting with the visual for a moment, because this wasn't a small television segment tucked between commercial breaks. This was SoFi Stadium, one of the largest and most technologically advanced venues in the world, packed with fans who had traveled from every corner of the globe for a single football match. Lisa wasn't performing for a niche audience that already knew every lyric. She was performing for football purists who may never have listened to a K-pop song in their lives, alongside K-pop fans who may never have watched 90 minutes of football. For 4 minutes, both of those audiences were watching the exact same screen, hearing the exact same beat drop, and that kind of shared attention is genuinely rare in entertainment. There's also the language of the song itself worth noting. Goals wasn't built as a single artist's vehicle. It was constructed, verse by verse, so that Lisa, Anitta, and Rema each brought their own musical identity into the same track, stitched together into one anthem. That structure mirrors the tournament it was written for, a World Cup hosted not by one nation, but 3, spread across a continent, trying to tell one unified story through very different regional voices. For a few minutes, football and K-pop weren't 2 separate worlds anymore. They were sharing the same stage, the same lights, the same enormous roar. And when the song ended and the players walked out for kickoff, Lisa's part of the story, at least on paper, was supposed to be finished. Performance done. Job complete. Move on to the next tour stop, the next campaign, the next chapter. Except, that's not what happened. Part 2. Why did she come back? Fast forward a few weeks. The World Cup has moved deep into its knockout rounds. The group stage drama is over. The easy predictions have been thrown out the window, and the tournament has narrowed down to the matches that actually decide who lifts the trophy. One of those matches, Spain versus Belgium, a quarterfinal at Los Angeles Stadium. And there, somewhere in the stands, not on a stage, not introduced by an announcer, not surrounded by dancers, is Lisa, just watching. She shared the moment herself, on her own Instagram. No press release. No official FIFA statement. No caption hinting at a bigger reason. Just Lisa, in the crowd, taking in a quarterfinal like anyone else who managed to get a ticket. Here's what makes this moment genuinely interesting, though, and is easy to miss if you're moving too fast through the story. She wasn't there for a few photos and gone. By all appearances, she stayed. She watched the match through to the very end, and she didn't appear to be cheering harder for one side than the other. No jersey pledging allegiance to Spain. No visible bias toward Belgium. Just a fan, watching football, the way football is supposed to be watched, with genuine, neutral curiosity about how the drama unfolds. Now, if this were a random celebrity with zero connection to the tournament, this would barely register as news. Famous people go to sporting events. It happens every week, in every city, at every level of fame. Nobody builds a whole video around Ryan Reynolds attending a football match. But Lisa isn't a random famous face who wandered into a stadium. She's the woman who, weeks earlier, opened the entire tournament on a global stage. And that changes how this moment reads. It stops being celebrity spotted at game and becomes something closer to, why is the woman who performed at the opening ceremony still following this tournament so closely, weeks later, off-duty, unpaid attention and all? Is it that simple? Genuine fandom? Or is there a thread connecting these two moments that we're just not seeing yet? That's the real open loop here. Not, did something happen? Just, why did she come back? Part 3, the theories and why we can't confirm any of them. Let's be upfront about something important before we go further. As of right now, there has been no official announcement from FIFA or from Lisa's team about any brand ambassadorship, extended partnership, or ongoing role tied to this World Cup beyond her confirmed spot as one of the opening ceremony performers. Everything past that point is analysis, pattern spotting, and, yes, speculation, not confirmed fact. So, let's treat it that way. Theory 1. She's simply a football fan. This is the simplest explanation, and honestly, it might be the correct one. Global superstars are still people, and people who spend their lives on tour buses and in recording studios are allowed to have hobbies that have nothing to do with their careers. If Lisa genuinely enjoys football, and given that she was in Los Angeles anyway, with the tournament happening practically in her backyard for those weeks, there's nothing unusual about wanting to watch a quarterfinal in person. Sometimes the simplest read is the right one. She performed, she stuck around the city, and when a huge match came up, she went, the same way millions of other fans did. Theory 2. There's a personal or professional connection to FIFA that hasn't been made public yet. This is where things get more speculative, and we want to be careful here. There is no evidence of a formal deal, but it's worth asking the question anyone in the entertainment industry would ask. When an artist performs at an event of this scale, it's not unusual for further collaboration, official or unofficial, to follow quietly before anything is ever announced. Could Lisa's continued presence be tied to something that simply hasn't been confirmed yet? Maybe. Could it be entirely unrelated and she just likes watching football? Also, entirely possible. Until FIFA or her team says otherwise, this stays a question mark, not a conclusion. Theory 3. This is part of a broader solo era for Lisa. Zoom out for a second. Lisa has spent the past couple of years building out her identity well beyond Blackpink. Solo music, high-fashion campaigns, appearances that put her in rooms most K-pop soloists never reach. A World Cup opening ceremony slot fits neatly into that pattern. It's another marker of a global solo profile that keeps expanding into spaces traditionally outside the K-pop lane. Under that lens, showing up again as a visible, recognizable face at a marquee World Cup match, even just as a spectator, keeps her name in a conversation that has nothing to do with music charts. It's a different kind of visibility, and it's one that fits her broader trajectory. Theory 4. It's simply a coincidence, and we're the ones building a narrative. We have to include this one, because it's honest. Sometimes a person performs at an event, enjoys the experience, and comes back to watch more of it because, again, it's a World Cup happening nearby, and World Cups are genuinely exciting to witness live. Not everything needs a hidden layer. Sometimes the story is just, she had a great time, and she wanted more of it. The honest answer? It's probably some blend of these. Maybe all 4. Maybe none confirmed until someone official actually says something. That's the nature of this story right now. It's a puzzle with real pieces, but no finished picture. And part of what makes it fascinating is watching how it might resolve in the weeks ahead. Part 4. A bigger pattern, music and football are merging. Zoom out even further, though, because Lisa's story isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of something much larger, a pattern that's been building for years and seems to be accelerating with this specific tournament. Global music and global football have been circling each other for a while now. Jungkook's 2022 World Cup appearance was one of the earlier, clearest signals that FIFA understood something important. Football fandom and music fandom aren't separate audiences anymore. They overlap, massively. A K-pop fan halfway across the world who has never watched 90 minutes of football in their life will still tune in to see their favorite artist perform on that stage. And some percentage of those fans end up staying for the tournament itself. This World Cup leaned into that overlap harder than almost any before it. The opening ceremony lineup alone tells the story: Lisa, Anita, and Rima for goals. Katy Perry, Tyla, Future, Andrea Bocelli. That's not a random assortment of artists. That's a deliberate, global casting call designed to pull in audiences from K-pop fandoms, Afrobeats fans, Latin pop listeners, American pop audiences, and classical music devotees, all under one stadium roof, all before a single ball had been kicked in that match. And that's exactly why Lisa's presence, both on stage and later in the stands, matters beyond just being a nice moment for Blackpink fans. It's a data point in a bigger trend. Global sport is actively courting global pop culture, not as a side attraction, but as a core part of how these tournaments now market themselves to a planet full of different fandoms. Think about it from FIFA's side for a second. A World Cup used to sell itself on football alone. The matches, the rivalries, the history. Now, tournaments are being built as full cultural events, where the halftime show, the opening ceremony, and yes, even which celebrities are spotted enjoying the games, become part of the story the world tells about the tournament. Lisa attending a quarterfinal generates exactly the kind of crossover buzz that gets K-pop fans who don't normally follow football suddenly checking World Cup scores, just to see if she'll show up again. Whether or not there's anything more formal connecting Lisa to this tournament, her presence, both as a performer and as a fan, is a small but telling example of where global entertainment and global sport are heading. Closer together, more intertwined, and increasingly impossible to separate. It also raises a longer-term question that's bigger than any single artist. What happens the next time a major sporting event needs to sell itself to a genuinely global, genuinely online audience? If this tournament is any indication, the answer probably isn't book one massive Western headliner and call it a day. It's closer to what we saw in Los Angeles. Build a lineup that reflects the actual fractured multi-genre way people consume music now, and let moments like Lisa's carry organically across fandoms that would otherwise never cross paths. That's arguably the bigger story hiding underneath the smaller one. Lisa, showing up in the stands for Spain versus Belgium, is a fun, slightly mysterious footnote. But the fact that it's even a story worth discussing, that a K-pop star's attendance at a football match becomes a genuine talking point across sports media and entertainment media alike, says something about how thin the line between these two worlds has become. A decade ago, this wouldn't have been a headline anywhere. Today, it's a video you're watching. So where does that leave us? We've got a historic opening ceremony performance. We've got a quiet, unannounced return weeks later as a spectator. We've got zero official statements confirming anything beyond what she was originally booked to do. And we've got a handful of theories, some simple, some speculative, that could all be partially true or not true at all. Maybe that's the most honest way to end this, with a question, not an answer. Do you think Lisa's connection to this World Cup ends with that opening ceremony performance? Or do you think there's more to this story that just hasn't come out yet? Drop your theory in the comments. We genuinely want to know which explanation feels right to you.